Southern California, yeah.
Born and raised on DNA, laugh and cry to what we say. We hit you with that wordplay.
4053.
What episode are we on? D, they feeling like baby zombies, all dressed in Abercrombie.
SoCal DNA coming in live, 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night. COVID got you sitting inside, why not sip one and free your mind?
Cheap thrills, popping pills, stat cash, spend it fast.
Listen to all of those lies as Arjun act like he's surprised.
Stack cash, spend it fast. That's got to be my best or my favorite line of yours lately. I think I'm gonna start quoting you on that one, especially whenever we have these bets that we do. It's tough.
You know, the funny thing is, it's my least authentic line ever. Like, going back to everything that I've written ever in my whole life, I've never even rapped like that before. It is only for the purpose of this podcast. Because of the joke involved, right? Because what's the next line, right? The next line after that is something like, listen to all of Don's lies as Arjun act like he's surprised. So I'm always acting like I'm learning things from you, when really I know all the answers. I'm just playing the same situations over and over again. But I humor you, I entertain you, I give you some time to shine, you know. Trying to be the nice guy a little bit, trying to be nice. So a lot of things going on these days, and there's so many places we can start. We can talk about Biden's first 100 days. We can talk about your boy Trump and what he's up to.
Whoa.
We can talk about a lot of different things, but I think the most, interesting out of all the current events so far is what's happening with the stock market. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been as active in Wall Street as I used to be earlier. I guess not earlier this year, but in 2020. But something kind of wild has been going on this past week, where GameStop, out of all the companies in the world, GameStop has been pumped and dumped. I think it's a phrase that's been going on, pumping and dumping. That's when you invest heavily, like tons and tons of people are investing heavily in a stock to drive it up.
Sorry. Pumping and dumping is like what women do when they're pregnant and lactating and they've drank alcohol and that milk is no longer good because the alcohol's in the milk. That's pump and dump.
Well, clearly you spend a lot of time in the lactation period. I think more in terms
fertility.
There you go. Yes, red dresses everywhere. Red dresses. Now, I think it is an interesting phenomenon that's been happening, and I think it's spurred on by all these Reddit investors, these Robinhood investors. Essentially, they're the younger demographics who have a little bit of discretionary income, to say the least, and they're able to just, make the market do things that it's never done before, and make a very volatile situation and invest in these brick and mortar stores that aren't really that meaningful anymore. And even companies like AMC, who have been hemorrhaging money due to the pandemic, all of a sudden, they're a viable stock and it's still floating. Like, you look at GameStop, I think it went from in the single digits or something, or a very, very low number, to $300+ per share in a span of a day or two.
Yeah, it became a Fortune 500 company overnight.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And so it begs the question, Don, do you think this is okay? Like, should this be allowed in the stock market?
Yeah. It's a free market. As long as you play by the rules, which is questionable given that all these people kind of collaboratively colluded basically, right? So to make moves like that is a form of insider information. Granted, it's on a public forum, so that's questionable whether or not that's private or public, whatever it may be. But I think it should be allowable because it is a free market. If these billionaires can move money as they see fit, and especially for people that short on stocks, which was the case here for GameStop, to bet on a company to lose value in order for you to gain monetary value frustrates me. Granted, there is a level of intelligence required to predict that. I don't like it when people bank on other people's losses for their own gains. I think that's a shady way of living,
Isn't that how insurance companies make profit?
Which is, yeah, but at the same time, they at least will offer you something in return if things go south. They protect you. Though we may not agree with the approaches to things, like I don't agree that insurance should be a forced subscription for some things, like having fire insurance for your house and things of that sort. That's a different story. When it comes to just strictly companies where there's livelihoods on the line, right? If a company tanks, that means people will lose their jobs, unfortunately. Stockholders that have diversified funds invested in these companies will lose part of their 401ks. And granted, it's pennies to some people, but it all adds up. And over time, this isn't the only company that is being shorted. It just so happened that this group on Reddit called Wall Street Bets was able to identify it and make it happen. I've never heard of a company shorting like 80% of a company. It's weird. But that's what frustrates me. And am I mad that it happened? No, I'm quite frankly happy that it happened, because it showcases that these Wall Street guys don't really control the market. It should be a people's market.
Yeah, but it's like, I think it's a flash in the pan at the end of the day. I think even if you have more and more of these Redditors on Wall Street Bets and more of these Robinhood investors pumping and dumping, as I like to say, I don't think they have enough long-term control of the market to really make a significant difference for years to come.
But then who does have control? Why should we let Wall Street control everything?
That's not the question I'm posing, though. The question I'm posing is, if you believe in a free market and you believe this is okay, you also accept that this isn't the norm, right?
It's not. No, it's not. And how do I say it? Not to move on, but to at least move the conversation forward.
Sure.
And to build off of why I'm very frustrated at, or why I say that Wall Street controls all this and the big, basically, black suit and tie guys control the markets. What happened to Robinhood and these smaller trading platforms that the everyday Joe uses when all this went down?
Let's talk about Robinhood. What did Robinhood do?
It shut down.
GameStop trading.
It shut down.
Why do you think they did that to GameStop trading?
They're gonna say, "Oh, there was too much traffic going on, and there's too much trading going on for this one particular stock. There's too much movement going on."
What does that mean, though?
It means everybody's basically like imagine.
What does that even mean?
Like going to a library and then one particular book is checked out across the board, and it's Robinhood's job to get that book to people's hands that require it. They've quite frankly ran out of places to find it, or easy places to identify and give that book to somebody. So it's almost like a bandwidth issue is what they're going to say. I don't think that's the case. Why should it be the case with our technology nowadays and how fast our platforms can communicate with each other? Almost at the blink of an eye. And for them to, quote unquote, protect that one company or these big companies that are shorting, that's what it seems like it's doing. It's not letting the small players cash in on the big players' loss or lack of foresight. Unfortunate.
So this is the thing, though. I've always had the belief that the stock market is not a true representation of how the American economy is doing. I think the stock market is almost like its own entity that plays by its own rules. And yes, I agree, there is perhaps too much power that Wall Street has in determining, who really benefits the most from these transactions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just wonder, what is the long-term effect of this GameStop frenzy? Like, is there going to be any legislative change?
I don't know if it's going to get to that level. What I think is going to happen, at least immediately, is these big companies, these billionaire companies, are going to be a little bit more careful with how long they short stocks and how they set up these trades. There's going to be some sort of protections made to possibly hide the movement, even though it can't or it shouldn't be. They could at least kind of like HIPAA with healthcare information, personal information. Sort of, there's already that hidden. You don't know who's shorting the stock. You just know what volume or how many of them are being shorted, or there may be limits set, right? Because you don't want a whole company to be shorted. That's completely fucked, which I'm fine with. Regulation wise, no. I think it's just one of those cases where House doesn't win. And unfortunately, House is mad, and House is going to do whatever it can to recoup that loss.
Now let's look at it from the other perspective. Instead of the hedge funds that you're referring to, I'm more interested in the people who are investing in GameStop now.
I think they're just honestly they're trolls, which is fucking fantastic, because there is no better way of downing a power suit guy than having some internet troll who lives in the basement of his mom's house, basically rallying a group of people to destroy that hedge fund. Not all of them are trolls, right? I'm on Reddit all the time. I am a troll, though, so bad example. It's everyday people, everyday Joes and Janes that wanted to gain a little bit of financial freedom with whatever free cash they had available to use, while keeping a storefront in a booming industry, a dying storefront in a booming industry, afloat. And I think it's a great story because GameStop is, well, because of other online retailers, GameStop is slowly losing its steam. It's running out of coal. And all these everyday people said, hey, here's my cash. Use this as coal. And look at it now. So I think it's the smaller man looking out for smaller companies, relatively speaking.
That's a great point, looking at it from the troll's perspective. Now, from my perspective, this is a missed opportunity. That was my first reaction when I heard the news. I was just looking at it because I heard this from a colleague of mine. He was telling me about this, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, why are people investing in GameStop? And they explained it to me, and I was like, well, damn, I should have invested in GameStop. I should have at least thrown like a few bucks over there.
Yeah.
Because even a few bucks could mean a lot of profit now.
Yeah.
But since I didn't, it made me think, all right, how can I try to catch the next wave here? What can I do? And then I thought I had this idea. What if I just decided to really, really diversify my assets here? And let's say you take X amount of money and you put like all that money in 10 shares of this, 10 shares of that, 10, just random stocks. Really not hoping to cash in on any one of them, but it's like the lottery. If this type of shit happens again for some other company, then boom, all of a sudden your 10 shares are worth like 30x of that, or 20x of that, and you can make a nice sizable profit. Now that's my 2 cents on this, because obviously I don't have the time, I don't have the luxury of time that other people do, and check the E-Trade or check the financials every single day. I just simply don't. So I have to plan ahead. My strategy would be, let's go ahead and take X amount of money, invest a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. All these popular companies that maybe the kids will like to invest in, all these trolls will like to invest in. And you never know. It may work out. You may, get one lucky hitter, and you make 10x off of that one, basically validating your whole experiment, or nothing will be gained. You'll end up kind of breaking even at the end. What do you think of that strategy?
I didn't get most of it, but it's honestly just gambling at the end of the day. That's what we've learned in school. The markets are basically legalized gambling. So what you do when you enter the market, it's up to you. You have the freedom to make that decision as long as you're...
No. But wait, did you get my strategy, though?
No, what's your strategy?
Oh, did you miss it? Like, was it cut off in the...
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what I'm saying is, say you have X amount of money,
Okay.
and you decide to buy 10 shares of stock A, 10 shares of stock B, C, all the way down to Z, that you think may pop off.
Sure.
They're not doing too well. They're relatively cheap stocks, and they don't have much movement either. But if this type of shit is happening with Wall Street Bets and these other Redditors, you never know what the next one will be. So it's kind of like buying lottery tickets, right?
Sure.
But you buy lottery tickets knowing that you have a decent chance of maybe hitting it off on one of these companies because the kids will know about them, right? So
Sure.
that's my strategy. Like, say you invest a little bit of money in each one, and maybe you strike it rich with one of them, justifying this whole experiment. What do you think of that?
How many?
Let's say 10. Let's say 10
No.
different
Like,
companies.
how many companies are in the stock market?
Many.
2,800. And if you're gonna invest in 26 companies, you're investing in 0.1%.
Do you realize that's like an amazing chance of winning the lottery?
Of course,
had
but
a
you're only investing
0.1%.
$100 first off, right? So you're not, your return's not going to be that much, especially if you spread it across 26 companies. At
But see,
most,
it is
a company is getting.
it's calculated risk because think about it this way: I don't think these redditors know 2,700 of these companies. I think
Which
that's
is
fair to say.
sure, or they
Because
have at
think about
least
it
heard
this
of
way:
them. Sure.
if you were to guess, let's say before this happened, if I were to say, Don, give me a list of, let's say, 50 companies
Sure.
that you think possibly,
Mhm.
maybe there's a small chance these redditors will just go crazy on. Chances are, if you were to assess the situation, you'd put GameStop on there. I think
Yep.
you would.
Yeah.
Why? Now, why? But why would you? Let's pause right there. Why would you put GameStop on?
Dying storefront or dying business in a otherwise booming sector.
What do you mean booming sector?
Well, because technology is always on the up and up.
GameStop is not a technology stock.
But it's under the video game industry. So under the entertainment industry, that's relatively booming, especially with the Sony's movement and Nintendo's movement and Microsoft's movement.
I don't really count GameStop as the same category as Microsoft, though. GameStop is like a brick and mortar shop mostly. They do online sales, but GameStop has been losing money for years, right?
They have, but what is their product?
They mostly sell video games.
Mm-hmm.
Do they sell software? No. Do they sell?
Okay, so our definition of tech it's slightly different. So I'm more, let's say, entertainment. So
yeah, entertainment isn't doing well, Tom.
No. Well,
video
games entertainment. All right, so let's go a step lower then. Video game entertainment, which has been booming given COVID's restrictions on going out with the stay-at-home order, that is off and on what seems like eternity now.
I think if you put GameStop in a category of all the stocks that aren't doing well over the last couple of years, not couple of years, a couple of months, let's say, I think you can easily put it on the list of 50, which you admitted. And so that effectively takes that 2,800 number down to about, let's say, 50 or 100 stocks. So I think you could actually predict what these Wall Street bettors are going to do next, these Wall Street Reddit bettors.
Sure.
And I think that's not a bad idea. But my question is it actually going to happen again? I worry that with Robinhood's restrictions now, it's making it difficult.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that are cashing out on Robinhood. That's been the latest that I've heard, where Robinhood's kind of freaking out because now everybody's pulling their money out, and rightfully so. Because if you're going to restrict them on something that is pretty much a guaranteed gain at that point in time, I'd be pissed if I were one of those people. Right, especially if you're about to hit the fucking green button to issue that buy option, right? It'd be like, hey, I'm using Robinhood. I've heard great things about it, nothing but great things prior to this, and it's available to everyone. It's free to use, totally good, nice, and what's the right word? User-friendly interface compared to other. Interfaces that you could use. Of course, now I'd leave it. So I think what will happen, it may not happen again in the stock market. People are going to eventually flood into the crypto market because that's more readily available and it's a lot more lucrative. And if people can all jump on ship, if they realize jumping on ship at the same time can make money, there are going to be people that will be at the forefront of that know they could make money off of everybody else following them. It's an unfortunate thing to say.
Speaking of crypto, I think Doggy Coin has been popping.
Did you hear about that? I saw a couple streams. There were a couple people this morning. I was watching some Twitch highlights where some idiots basically put all their money into what is it, Doggy? Or Doggy?
Yeah, Doggy Coin.
Coin. And they went in when it was at its peak. And then when they realized that it was going back down, they're like, fuck. Like, you see this one guy just walk away from his computer and just starts chain smoking a whole pack of cigarettes. Yeah. So I think that's what's going to happen next. Honestly, I think it's actually just a fad right now. It's current. It's new. With our generation's attention spans, they'll probably, just laugh at this troll moment and look forward to the next troll moment.
You know what's wild though? Like, I'm looking at and I haven't looked at this until just now. I'm looking at GameStop's 1 month history on the ticker.
It's garbage.
Right? And well, like let's say the first week of January, it was around like 17.19. So not as low as I thought, but 17.19, and then it stayed around there. Then all of a sudden, like around January 11th, it started climbing a little bit. It jumped actually quite a lot given its stature to 31.
Sure.
And then it kept climbing, like to 39 and then to 43. So this was actually going on for some time, like for a few days. It's not like it just happened all of a sudden in one day, but really the largest magnitude shift was from like January 25th to 26th, where it went from 76 to 150, and then to the 27th to 347. That was huge. It added $200 in one day.
Yeah.
And then what blows my mind even further, it dropped down to 193 on the 28th. And then finally on the 29th, it jumped up again. Why did it jump up again? That is wild.
I don't know the specifics. I think it's just one of those, some people just cashed out, or a lot of people. Little subsets of the groups said, hey, let's cash out now. The damage has been done. While as others kind of just, rode along.
But see, that blows my mind. What it tells me there is this effort was so successful that people actually invested when it was going down.
Yeah. Yeah. And those, unfortunately, I think what happened was those are from people that are a little bit uneducated and they heard the news. Hey, buy GameStop, buy GameStop. Especially to those that don't read the news or get the breaking headlines as they come. Or those that do, but just can't read it until later on in the day, where it may be a little too late, where market activity has pretty much come to a standstill, and it's all sales at that point.
Okay,
So.
I think I have a plan here. I think AMC is what I'm going to go with. So fuck the strategy about 26 companies.
It's too late, man. It's too late.
No, it's not. It's not. I really don't think so, because look, GameStop right now, obviously after hours, it's going to go a little bit higher, but 13.26, right? 13.26. I think it's the perfect time. Sure, it started at like $2. I get that. I think as long as it's under like 15, I wouldn't mind. Taking a little wild ride down the Reddit street.
Well, you're entitled. You're entitled to do it. And not that I work in finance or anything, but AMC is also a dying storefront too. So I get where you're going, but it's not the same case. No one's shorting this. There's no one to hurt, no one to feel the ramifications of being an everyday person. There's no what's the word? Not stimulus. There's no light at the end of the tunnel for these trolls to get off on, to do it. So, I mean, it's a good time maybe if you want to play the long term, right?
How many hedge funds are shorting GameStop?
Let me see. GameStop stock. Well, I think they're all out now, but I thought it was only 2.
Okay, and how many are shorting? You think nobody's shorting AMC? Well, you can't because it's a 2. But I just wonder, is that the only factor here? Because I think.
Go ahead.
No, because I think AMC is one of those situations where everybody knows the movie industry is fucked during the pandemic. Everybody knows that.
Which
So
is
what?
weird, man. I thought they would pivot to digital already, but I guess Netflix is signing everybody. So
Well, they are pivoting to HBO Max. Warner Brothers is.
yeah, but that's not AMC. HBO is a totally separate entity. What are they doing as a company? Are
Oh
they
no,
gonna?
but AMC can't do anything. The company is all about cinema.
Oh, and that's why I thought they would pivot to digital.
How do you pivot in like 4 months? Like, what do you?
Hey, if Elon Musk can do it and showcase that his company that produces cars can do it, I think he is case in point in
Oh, but
regards to
dude, come on. You
companies
know it's not
pivoting.
a 4 month thing for him. I think he's been planning these for years. Boring
Yes,
Company, the
yeah,
flamethrower shit, all the different crap that he's working on. SpaceX. It's been in the works for many, many years.
which
For
is
AMC, I mean, if you really think about AMC, they've been booming before the pandemic. They were doing quite well.
yeah, absolutely. But I would at least argue it's the CEO's job to have that foresight that Elon
No,
has.
that's a cop out. That's a cop out.
No, it's
I
not,
think
dude.
you know, it is a cop
You
out.
gotta have
It,
exit
it is a cop out.
strategies for your
It is a
company.
cop out. It is a cop out because no CEO foresights pandemic. If you can
Sure.
tell me one, if you tell
Okay.
me
No.
one,
No.
if you give
Well,
me an example of one, let's say I'm a CEO of a company, my company is doing phenomenal. Not AMC, not
sure.
AMC, but my company is doing phenomenal. Are you telling me that I need to figure out, oh, in the next 2 months, shit's gonna go south?
Yeah.
I gotta
You're gonna have
pivot
to
now.
figure out exit opportunities or pivoting opportunities.
Bro, it doesn't work that way when the
Yeah.
pandemic
Yes,
and
it does.
pandemic.
It
No,
happened
no,
for my company with food. I
no.
wasn't
What,
able to
what,
serve food to the public. So what do? You join up with someone and join a local coalition in order to at least keep your company alive, rather
no,
than
no.
just
But
say like I'm
that's
gonna wait
different.
for this shit to end and
You're
I'll
more
write out the storm.
flexible. You're more flexible than AMC because you don't have a chains of theaters all over the world that you're responsible for,
Sure.
right? So what do you do with that? You can't pivot off of theaters.
Yeah, because even with the restaurant industry, they when they tried pivoting at grocery stores, that shit failed. So,
You see what I mean?
which
You
I get,
see what I mean?
but
It's not that easy. You
it's
can't just
not.
say CEOs have the foresight to pivot. That's the right way
No, no,
to
no.
do
I'm
it.
not saying they have. I'm saying they should have the foresight to at least be able to pivot.
No, see
Like,
that I think that's a cop out because it's not realistic. In a pandemic,
mm,
if you're AMC, you really just have to cut your losses and hope that eventually the theaters will be packed again. Because look what's happening, right? Warner Brothers is going to HBO Max. Other studios, Disney, for instance, Marvel, they're just going to Disney Plus.
yeah,
So if you're in AMC's position, your primary focus, excuse me, is catering toward the cinema going audience. You have your infrastructure, you have all your capital set up for that. It's really, really difficult to pivot if you're AMC. What you're really supposed to say here is, you are fucked. You're AMC. You are fucked. It's not about foresight. It's not about having the right CEO to think ahead. It's you are fucked, my friend. So that's why my point is, if you're these Wall Street bet companies, you just want to be like this, I'm a Redditor. I just want to screw this whole system. I want
yeah,
to show that a company who's absolutely going nowhere
yeah,
and is going to get crushed by HBO, going to get crushed by Disney. Let's pump up this stock.
yeah,
Who
yeah.
cares if the hedge funds are hedging this stock or not? Let's pump it up and then take it to the moon. And I think that's why. That's my reasoning. $13, I think, is a very low buy-in
How much are
for
you
a
gonna put
stock
in?
that potentially. I haven't decided yet. I'll have to see what it's going for on Monday, because there's a chance that on Monday morning, whenever the fuck I wake up, it'll be at 30 or 35. Then I'll be
Yeah.
like,
Well,
okay, it's
I
slowly
think
too
what
much.
happens is everybody's already left the platforms and they got what they wanted. They taught them a lesson and cashed out on billionaire dollar money. So I think this fad's over.
I disagree because people forget before GameStop, before AMC, do you know what this Reddit group was doing? Do you remember which stock they were pumping?
No, I don't know.
Kodak.
Oh, the camera maker or the film and camera maker?
Yeah. So if you actually look at Kodak's ticker from like a while
Kodak.
ago, and you have to
Stop.
look like maybe about like 6 months or so, I think around.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
January. Oh no, there was they did it. They did it this. Oh wait. Sorry, year to date. I was looking. Oh, went from $2 or about 3 to 33.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go. So I think there's been a history of this kind of behavior. Granted, don't get me wrong. GameStop is the most notable and likely the largest upswing ever. I don't think any other stock will come close to that, especially now that people are more aware of it. But this has been going on a little bit, like a little bit here, a little bit there. I could see other brick and mortars like Macy's, J.C. Penney, these stores, Gap. They've been shutting down a lot of their retail
See,
fronts all over the.
man, what you gotta do is get into something that's gonna fade after the pandemic leaves. Or
These stores, right? I don't think people are going to go to like clothing stores as often.
No.
Right?
Like, no. I'm saying, like, think a little bit ahead. Let's say all the vaccinations are sent out and all stay-at-home orders are uplifted by summertime. What in that time period, when all the restrictions have been uplifted, will be of no more necessity?
Well, like I said, I think brick and mortar stores that specialize in clothing, I don't think people are going to feel comfortable trying on clothes that like other people infected with diseases are also trying on putting back on the rack. That's number one. Number two, I think cinemas will hit a downturn. I think AMC, you already see it. I don't think people are going to go back to the cinemas as often. That's going to close a lot of these stores, a lot of these cinema fronts, especially the smaller ones, to be shuttered because you're simply not going to have enough business. And what else? I think anything that requires like you to be there in the store, that's likely to be shut down, in my opinion. I think people are going to be doing Instacart for years to come. So you're going to see a lot of grocery chains, not too many, but a lot of grocery chains that are kind of out there, like your John's Market. Whoever the fuck goes to John's, I think that's right. Just like that's going to get killed.
No. Hey, John's, I think it's part of Vons. I think they just rebrand or do DBAs. So that way it could be a little more hipster-like, a little bit different.
Oh, it's like cool to go to John's, but not to Vons.
Yeah. Like there's Safeways up north in the Bay Area, but there's Vons down here.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. What do you think though? What are some more businesses that aren't going to be frequented as often after this vaccine situation settled?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to get your opinion on was Zoom. Zoom,
like the teleconferencing, right?
will still be prevalent, right? Because there may be people working from home more often.
Yep.
As that may become the new norm for many people. But what that leads me to believe is there's going to be a buttload of competitors that are going to be up and coming, which may be other people you may want to look into. That's something that I like to think of. You don't just think of the company that's succeeding, you think of the competitors or the startups that are rising and come in poaching these successful companies' creators, or not creators, writers and scripters, to basically build a better product. So, you could steal.
See, the problem with that logic with this particular application, and that's a great example, but the problem is this. I think a lot of the competitors are already big players.
Yeah, like Microsoft and
Google. It's really Google and Microsoft with the Teams, Google with the Google Meet, and you could invest in them. I mean, Microsoft, more so than Google because Google's really expensive per share. But I don't think startups are going to get into teleconferencing, Don. I don't think it works that way.
No. I'm just thinking out loud. What do you think about car companies? Service has gone down because people are driving less, depending on if you go in or out. Most people aren't going in, but then people may turn up and change to leases or switch up to Tesla, so that might be a little different. Oh, that's another thing to think about with the advent of batteries and the evolution of the technology. How long do you take, traditional motor companies to last? Unless they pivot to electrical.
I think this has been going on. This conversation has been going on for some time, even before the pandemic.
Sure.
I don't know if the pandemic is necessarily a catalyst for the surgence of EVs,
Got it.
I think.
Ooh.
I think it's inevitable.
Okay.
You know, I think it's just. Oh, go ahead. You found something?
Yeah, Moderna.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with Moderna? Once the vaccines have been done, I mean, do you think they got stuff in the pipeline? And by the way, who turned you on to Moderna?
I did. I told you about it.
Who did I turn you on to?
No, you didn't really turn me on to anything in particular. I think I just. What Don's referring to about a year ago,
Yeah.
maybe 9 months ago or so.
Something like that.
I was getting more involved in the stocks, and I decided to focus on the pharmaceutical stocks
I
because
got
I
you in
thought,
Gilead, I think.
no, you didn't. I chose basically I chose three different stocks back then. It was I think Inovio Pharmaceuticals
Sure.
as the low buy-in. It was like less than $10, I think, and then it was Moderna for like the medium play, and then it was Gilead for the slightly more expensive play. And I thought, you know what, let's try these three, and maybe one of them will be great. Obviously, it was partly selfish, but also I was thinking, you know, the world cares about vaccines, the world cares about treatments for vaccines. I think this only makes sense, right? Like, this is the one thing that makes sense, and it makes you feel a little bit less guilty knowing that the money is going to help these companies do the right research and get the technology and the equipment and whatever else they need. That was kind of my thought process. When I shared these to you, you obviously took credit by saying, "Oh yeah, focusing on one pharmaceutical industry is the right strategy. Dominate that one first." I think that was something that you said. Like, focus on that one, you know, master that, and move on to other industries.
yeah. Sector. Yeah.
Yeah. So the sector, yeah, focus on the pharmaceutical sector, do that well, and then move on to other ones. I think that was your main advice there. Um, but Moderna, to answer your question, uh, I don't know what happens from here. I think for now, if we look at, let's say, oh, can you still hear me? By the way,
Yeah, I can hear you.
okay, I just heard a noise in my headphones. I think my battery's a little bit low on the beats. But anyways, yeah, I think if you look at the 6 month view, obviously it's spiked up more
He's
recently
finally
because it's been,
asleep.
you know, approved, and it's in like the hundreds now, probably going to hit 200 soon. I think it'll be a better company for years to come compared to where it was a year ago. But will it remain at like 170 forever? I don't think so. I think when the pandemic dies down, Moderna is not going to be as popular. It's not going to be a hot stock. It's not going to be talked about by presidents, by Dr. Fauci, by people on the news every day. And by nature of that, publicity goes down. The stock's value will probably go down a little bit and settle into a new normal. So I don't think Moderna will necessarily skyrocket with other things in the pipeline. Maybe, but my 2 cents is probably not. What do you think?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the stock market often just because right now I'm doing the slow play investment in the home. I think basically when that was coming to fruition, that's when all my following of the Dow basically went down with my dreams.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. It's a very
no, it's
very
playing the long.
tragic twist.
It's playing the long term game, right? So now my focus has been what will not give me the immediate bang for my buck. How do I acquire land? And it's something I haven't told you yet, but Kelly and I are actually studying for our real estate licenses to eventually become a brokerage over time and acquire land and play the long game because I fear in the future, or rather, I'm becoming an old man where all this new technology is scaring me.
It's not. It's really
It's not. It's not. No. But I'm saying, like, to me, financially speaking, things are moving way too quick. And for someone that has a lot of responsibilities, more so that go beyond my own control, you know, that with, you know, a future kid, Kelly, the house, the mortgage, and all these ties that I have, especially with the student loans. I'm looking more conservative in how to create wealth. I'm looking for more surefire ways that may not give me the double-digit percentage returns I may want, but will at least give me something that's worth value, even if it's a loss at the end of the day. I'm not going to lose everything. If anything, I lose 10% at most. But inflation will pick it up, and I'll just write it off saying like it's net, pure dollar wise. So yeah, I haven't been looking into the market much. I think in the future it's always going to be, or it's going to be even rockier in the biotech industry, because that seems to just keep growing and growing and growing. People always say there's a bubble there, but that bubble has been getting larger and larger ever since someone said there was a bubble. So I don't know. Of course, there's the REITs. If you get into REITs, which is real estate, that's surely going to face some turbulence once the pandemic's over, given the rise, especially here in Southern California, in demand and less supply, and the market rates when it comes to mortgages. That's all going to change in the next couple of years, depending on when the pandemic decides to end. And what's another industry? Those are what I'd be looking into. Pharmacy is always going to be solid, if you know what you're doing. Healthcare may be solid, more so, and I'd look into healthcare tech, because that seems to be the route everybody's going. Not so much brick and mortar. Like hospitals are a dying industry. I think what will happen with hospitals is it's just going to become surgical centers, more so than places where people stay. I don't know. I think it looks bleak.
I think you bring up a great point about the market. You have to look at it in two different ways, I think. A lot of people do look at it in the short term for the tremendous gain, right? It's like a gamble. You throw in a little bit of money, you hope to get a lot very quickly, and you cash out. Your perspective is that of a very mature adult. And I think our listeners can respect that.
That feels good coming from you. Slippery D.
One on the board. Moments. You have your moments. You certainly do, and I give you credit for those moments for sure. I think there's different ways to accumulate wealth, and I think you captured that conversation very well. And for our listeners, tell us how you would like to accumulate wealth. Are you into real estate?
Yeah.
Like Don and Kelly? Are you into the stock market, perhaps? And maybe you already have Bitcoin and Dogecoin and all those cryptocurrencies.
Oh, I think I got like $5 in Bitcoin somewhere.
You got to find the hard drive, my friend.
No. I like signed up for something, and they're like free $5, and I'm like, well, that might turn into something, given how much it's risen. But
sure. Yeah. I mean, I think. I think you kind of go through, the current events. You go through all these different, I guess, parts of your life, and you kind of understand that if you only do one thing, your 9 to 5, you likely won't be. You might be, but you likely won't be financially secure the way you want to be, and you may not be able to take care of everybody you want to, just by doing one thing. I think you always need to find other streams of income. And for some people, it could be getting into the real estate as a side hustle, maybe even turning that into a full-time thing. For other people, it could be, day trading. I know friends that do spend hours every day, checking the news, looking at the tickers, investing, and they're doing the shorting as well. Other people, they just have other side hustles. They, like yourself, Don. Don is a bit of a renaissance man, because the more I think about it, he's doing many things.
I'm doing too many things.
That's what that's what makes life worth living, though. I think you really find things to work your mind and get into all different nooks and crannies, just as a real Slippery D would. So I commend you for that, for sure. Now sometimes it helps to unwind a bit and listen to different kinds of music. I know I'm a fan of alternative rock and hip hop. We talk about it on the podcast a lot. Don is as well. He likes the R&B very much as well. One type of music we never really talk about is heavy metal music. Heavy metal music, to me, I get it. I get why there's some appeal there, but it's just not my cup of tea. It's certainly
Mm.
not my cup of tea, but it is the title, at least partially the title, of episode 7 of Cowboy Bebop, which is called Heavy Metal Queen. So, Don, I think you know what to do.
Are we doomed to a cold and heartless future in which computer says yes or computer says no, with the grim finality of an emperor in the arena?
Yeah, I never got into heavy metal, man. I have a really good buddy of mine that is all about it, and for the life of me, I hated being in this car listening to that crap. I would get a headache every time. Not even, adding on his reckless driving on top of it. Some people somehow relate it to classical music, and part of me is like, what? Like, how?
Don, you got to ask those people the follow-up question, the natural follow-up question. What drug are they on?
Yeah, I was going to be like, oh, really? I don't care. Like, just turn it off.
Fuck, that was... yeah.
Because it seems like it's just distortion upon distortion upon distortion with no melody, no cadence, and of course this is coming from me who hasn't really given it a chance. I guess maybe something I'll look into.
No, let's not. It's not even...
album review.
No. Just move straight on. Yeah,
man. But heavy metal queen, good episode, wouldn't you say?
It was a good episode. Would you like to run through it for the fans one time?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Let me kind of give the full.
Load up your notes. Hey, you know what?
All
right, as a little bit of back. Let's freestyle. Don't even look it up.
I don't have notes, but I'm
going
off the top of my head.
Yeah, episode starts off.
Okay.
I thought with a character named VT, or it started off with Faye trying to find somebody. They were again trying to do their bounty hunter lifestyles, and they were hunting for somebody with a dragon tattoo. Faye, who seems to not be lucky with her decisions, thinks that she finds somebody, only to go figure that the tattoo was actually of a slippery eel, a very cute eel, actually, on this very buff man's chest, leading the culprit with the real dragon tattoo to begin fleeing the scene. This goes on, and we get introduced to someone named VT, and there seems to be some sort of bet. I guess this episode's all about bets and blind bets, or somewhat educated bets, right? You know the letters VT, they got to stand for something. So people will bet money to try to guess her name. And they go ahead and mess up. This seems to be at a bar. And you can see that this lady is a local there, well respected. And for some reason, Spike is there. And what is Spike drinking?
Oh, that was a question for me. That was a prairie oyster.
Prairie oyster. And what's in a prairie oyster?
I just saw there was like a cracked egg in there. I forget what else he had in that glass. It looked disgusting.
Oh, prairie oyster. That sounds amazing, man. Would you be willing to try one?
What is it though? Besides the egg, what's in it?
So it's a beverage, right? It contains a raw egg, usually more yolk, right? But you have the egg white in there because when you have a hangover, who the hell cares if there's egg yolk when you're already eating egg white if you're already eating an egg yolk. There's a dash of Worcestershire. How do you pronounce that? Worcestershire.
You're doing a beautiful job. I wouldn't want to correct you. Yeah.
Worcestershire sauce.
There's a few extra syllables.
Of course, my friend. A little bit of vinegar, some hot sauce, a little bit of salt, and some ground black pepper.
Ugh,
so it seems like it's a nice little umami-rich shot that you take. It's typically taken as a hangover cure. How? Beats me. But I'm sure it wakes you up. So that's what he was going. So you want to go ahead and finish off the episode?
Yeah, I mean it's quite okay. Sure. So I think Don alluded to this. VT is the new character on this episode, and she is a trucker. Um, she is an interstellar trucker, which is kind of wild. Like, uh, you kind of see in several instances she has a huge, I guess, a
Payload.
futuristic space equivalent of like a big rig.
Sure.
Hauling cargo, whatever it may be, and she's well known. She's well respected. People know who she is. She's in that bar. She meets Spike there. Everybody else there knows who she is, of course. And she kind of develops a liking for Spike because Spike defends her. She gets into a little bit of a confrontation. They're picking a fight with her, and Spike kind of stands up. He's still drunk, not really drunk, but hungover. And even a hungover Spike is a badass. I mean, Don, you remember he was kicking butt left and right with his karate chops and flying knees and everything.
Hey man, just because you're drunk or hungover doesn't mean you can't do things. That's how I tend to trudge through life.
You speak from experience, my friend, and I know that quite well. And so VT befriends Spike in the moment, but
Sure.
then it's quickly revealed that Spike is a bounty hunter.
Sure.
And at that moment, VT just sours up, and she's like, bounty hunters, worthless scum. And she just kind of says, you know what? I don't want anything to do with you. I'm out. But at the same time, Spike is kind of, shafted because he looks outside of the bar and his ship is just wrecked. Like some kids or some thugs outside just went ham all over his ship and he can't even operate it anymore. So he's pretty much hitchhiking. He's looking for a ride, and VT steps out the bar and he kind of pities, or she kind of pities him. I confuse the he and the she because, like yourself, I think when we look at the character VT,
yeah, I was like, she has he has a very feminine voice for some reason. The English dub made a mistake here.
it's like a one bad English dub episode.
Hey, but it makes sense, right? When you put it all together, it's like it's a trucker. So I get it. Kind of has a stockier frame.
Sure. Yeah. So that's why we had a little bit of confusion as to the gender identity. Maybe she's gender fluid. I don't know. But in any case, she gives Spike a ride, and then they go through the cosmos as usual. And Faye, in the meantime, as Don touched on, she's chasing Decker. But then her ship also gets banged up. And so, Jet has to come and become the responsible one again, and get their ships into the cargo hold and repair them. Spend all this time, looking after their ships and making sure they're good. And it's a situation where Decker, the guy that they're trying to catch now, is actually hauling a lot of this nitro, this chemical that's very, very volatile. It can easily cause large explosions if mishandled. And because Decker got into somewhat of a kerfuffle with some of these other characters who were truckers, VT hears it on the dispatch, and she kind of calls up all of her homies like, hey, there's this truck with some kind of like dragon or some. Well, it wasn't a dragon. It was like this Hindu goddess, I think Saraswati, on the side of the on the truck. I think that's what I remember from the episode. Don, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about.
No. Yeah, it had markings like there's a tattoo on the skin. Particular truckers will decorate their particular trucks a certain way, right?
Like a decal or some shit. Yeah. So basically, one of these trucker friends of VT says like, yeah, I found him going into this like asteroid belt or whatever, like these mines actually. Inus mines, I think they were called. I'm totally wrecking that, I'm sure. And so they go through, VT is trying to chase down Decker to get revenge, right? And at the same time, Spike and Faye, they hear about this and they're like, oh shit, Decker's there and VT is there. We got to do something. I don't think they realize how dangerous this mine is. They follow along, and then calamity ensues, and they realize that these mines are exploding. The nitrous or whatever is going to blow at any time. They have to do a very delicate operation to get not only themselves out of the whole mine, but they also save Spike, because Spike actually lost his ship and he had to use a gun. wasn't that cool? He had to like fire guns to give himself the backwards momentum to like float in space. That's one thing that made no sense to me. How is he alive there? How is he like not frozen?
He has very strong lungs. That's what I thought.
To withstand the pressure, right? So ultimately, the mine collapses and Spike is saved by VT. And Spike, being the detective that he is, he's very clever. He's a very clever guy. He notices that there's some kind of like a watch or like a piece of jewelry that has the full name of VT. And of course, Don, you remember what the name is. Why don't you go ahead and tell the audience what VT really stands
It's like Victoria something. I don't remember the rest.
That's right, Victoria Terpsichore. Victoria Terpsichore.
Yeah, just on the tip of my tongue there.
I know. And of course I looked this up just to be correct about it. So and then it's revealed, the reason why VT feels this way about bounty hunters is because her dead husband was a bounty hunter by profession. And ever since then, like ever since he was killed on the job, basically, she kind of developed this sense that, you know what, the life of a bounty hunter is really, really bad. Like there's just no rules. It's just lawlessness and you can get killed at any time. And that's why she didn't really like the company of bounty hunters, because I think it made her feel, feelings about her deceased husband. I think that's the way that I looked at it. And who knows, man, like with the way that the show ended, it almost feels like VT could be a reoccurring character, perhaps even a assistant of Jet. Maybe the Bebop will have another big ship, a rig, a space rig for that matter. What do you think the chances are of VT joining the crew to some capacity?
I think they're relatively high. It seems like she's kind of just cruising through life, similar to how Faye was, just taking on jobs to do it. She has a cat. The cat loves Spike, so that may be another indication that it's if she follows her cat or trusts her cat's instincts, that might be another guy that you could latch onto now that you lost your husband. Not in the love sake, but one of those. I've been cruising through life. Maybe it's worthwhile to follow the dreams that my late husband had and join up this guy who seems to be legitimate and pure of heart. Because I'm sure in the scenario that we briefly touched where Spike held his breath and used his gun to get to Victoria, she may have saw some selflessness in him to save the other two women, or to put complete faith in these two individuals while sacrificing his own well-being. Even though that didn't have to probably happen. They could have come up with something else. So that quick wit and that ability to lead in the forefront rather than from behind may be something worthwhile, something to at least indulge in and entertain, if nothing pertinent has to be done, right? I'm assuming she has to drop off a shipment or deliver a shipment sometime soon. Maybe that's where the next hit will be, and it just so makes sense that they all get there together. Who knows?
No, I mean, certainly possible. I didn't really know what to make of this episode at the end, because I thought it could very well be a sign of things to come. Like maybe they do get VT in the mix and they continue on trucking, right? For lack of a better expression. But then I thought maybe this also could be just a fun one-off episode, just like the one before, right? Like, you shoot the kid, right? Spike, obviously. By the way, Spike shot the kid several times. I don't know if you know this, but even before the very end of that episode, remember the confrontation he initially had where he was in that kind of abandoned warehouse. He was on the ground floor. The kid was on the second floor with the wheelchair guy with the gun in his hand pointing at Spike. They were having a bit of a gunfight there. So Spike would easily shoot the kid multiple times. But I only bring that up because I think this is kind of character building. It's further character building for Spike. And Don, you actually wanted to bring up something very interesting about Spike and his relationship with the animals, right?
Yeah, I think animals may be taking a liking to Spike quite well. They take him quite easily. And given what was it, the Vicious episode, we noticed that Spike has clearly a devilish past, or some would say a beast-like past, that the animal in him was let loose. And now these animals, as all animals are quite savvy to how people hold themselves or other living beings hold themselves without even saying anything. They just know. So I think that these animals gravitate towards Spike because he's sort of a reformed beast of some sort, where he's reached that kind of evolution in manhood where he, depending on how you see it, understands life a bit more than what someone typically of his age would be at. So I think there's a sense of calm when it comes to Spike, and I think that these animals can see the full picture that we have yet to understand completely.
Yeah. I love how every episode of Cowboy Bebop, even though sometimes it seems like it could go in any order, right? Like they could have had the kid episode now and the heavy
Sure.
metal queen last episode, but it always reveals more about the characters, and that's something I really appreciate. Um, you know, Jet is just constantly this solid as a rock type of presence for the Bebop.
Sure.
I
Mr.
think
Reliable.
Mr. Reliable, and you love to have a guy like that who's an expert mechanic, can fix up Spike's ship, Faye's ship, even though he barely met Faye. He knows all the mechanics, all the electronics of the ship to repair it to some extent. And it's just really cool to see how each of them play their role, yet they kind of need each other too. Like Spike by himself, I think he could die any day. He is that type of a person. He could get himself into trouble and not really care about the outcome and just get himself killed. He needs, I would say, friends, for lack of a better word. He needs friends to tell him, like, hey, calm the fuck down. There's a better way to do things. Like, you shouldn't rush into it, even just like this. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. Like, Jed even told him that episodes ago. And with Faye, I think you get to see Faye as a different kind of career criminal. I don't really want to say Spike is a career criminal, but he has those tendencies, because to be a great bounty hunter, you kind of have to know how criminals think. You have to be somewhat of a, on the wrong side of the tracks yourself for many years to understand where would the criminal want to go, where would they hide, what their motivations are. Because he was part of that Red Dragon gang with Vicious back in the day, working under Mao. So with Faye, she's a career criminal. She knows how to talk to people. She knows how to get what she wants. But you touched on something very interesting. She's not always successful. She always finds herself getting into trouble. Why do you think that is? Why do you think someone like Faye, who's fully grown woman, she still finds herself fucking up to this day?
I think it's a stroke of bad luck.
Ah.
Yeah.
Bad luck because she's doing most of the right things, but maybe one decision was incorrect, causing her to get the wrong result, or it's more like just shit happens. It's a very dangerous lifestyle. You never know what you're going to come across.
Yeah, I think she's too, like you said, too quick. Or you alluded to it earlier, where Spike tends to, show there's a better way of doing things. I think Faye jumps the gun quite often, and maybe that's worked in the past, but over time you got to grow, as Spike has, and realize, there's plenty of fish in the pond. You don't have to go after the biggest, shiniest one to succeed in life.
And this begs the question: have they actually made any money? because I'm looking back at all the episodes.
Well, they haven't
seems
eaten bell peppers and beef for a while, so
Well,
I don't
now
know.
Faye's just eating up whatever stocks that they have,
Yeah,
like whatever
yeah,
food that they have. Faye's eating it up. But I'm just thinking, like every episode, whatever target they're going after, Shark ends up dying, right? It's like
yeah.
So how are they sustaining themselves? I just feel like they're always broke. They're perennially broke, and they're super desperate for the next hit every single episode.
No idea. No idea how to keep that together. Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting group of people for sure, and we will definitely be interested in the next episode 8, which I don't know about. Neither Don nor myself. We watched the preview of the upcoming episode.
Yeah, I choose not to.
Be good about it. Yeah, same here. So let's see. Let's find out what happens, and we'll definitely keep you guys informed on the next one. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed our special GameStop Power to the Players episode here, where we ran through the stock market and Don taught me about hedging and shorting and dreams of real estate glory. I think this was very, very enlightening, to say the least. So until next time, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, cats and dogs, we will see you next time. Take care.